And we are live. Hello everyone and welcome to another YouTube live here. We're just going to be talking about BTC and its price action going all the way from the weekly chart all the way to the 1 hour. Doing the top down approach like always, giving you guys a good breakdown of what we're able to find and see within all the different time frames that we like to use in order to conduct our technical analysis. So to start off, let's just first take a picture of the weekly chart and discuss the flow that we're able to see for the bigger term time frame. So after we broke our key descending level resistance all along here, we did have a nice breakout, and then the red candle right here did show that, to me anyways, that there was a lot of buy volume within the area because we saw a nice wick protruding below the body of the candle, but then the bulls brought the price right back up, closing that weekly candle pretty bullish. And then we also see that there's not a lot of volume coming down for the bears. We see that right here compared to the amount of volume pushing the price up, breaking the key level, which is right here. So overall, volume is in accumulation. We are still in a very nice breakout, and we did get a little bit of not a pullback, but some consolidation within the weekly chart here. But overall, I do still think that we are in a bullish breakout and we have some bullish momentum behind us. The first key level, we did hit that $9,100 level, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But our first key level within the horizontal supply zone that I'm able to identify is going to be around the $9,600, $9,500 zone. And we can see that right here. Just gotta sneeze here one moment. Excuse me. So this is that key area that we were talking about, and we're bouncing off two zones right now. We're bouncing off the support, which is currently sitting at around $7,800, and then we're bouncing off we haven't bounced off it yet, but I think this is the next major zone that we're going to be hitting, is around the $9,500, $9,600 zone. We can see it being used as a very, very key level of support within the triangle within 2019, as well as retesting as major rejection back in the fall and, or I guess early winter of 2019. And then we also saw the left shoulder get created. Not ideal, but if we just move this down a little bit further, we can see that it is a rejection zone for the head and shoulders. And then if we move that down, we will have that $9,100 zone be the initial rejection, which we did see. But overall, I definitely do think that we still have some bullish volume that we could push through, and then connecting the anchor point to the highest point within the chart, within the downtrend, which is right here, where that 40% push came in. So we're looking at the highest point, which is right there. We draw a trend line from the anchor point, which is right there, to the highest point within the chart, and we can still identify that it has broken the zone and has retested with a very, very nice wick protruding below the key area right here. So we saw the price come all the way down and then come all the way back up, pushing the price back up where almost the open was. And this gives a really good indication that there is buy pressure within the area, and we could see some buy pressure continue off, pushing the price up to closer to around that $9,600 zone. So overall in the weekly, it still looks pretty bullish in my opinion. We do have a little bit of sell volume coming in last week, but overall I do think that we will start to push up back above the $9,600 zone before we pull back to around the 78. So overall, I was thinking that we could hit that 78. Sorry, I got a bit of a cold here. We could hit that 78 with a strong pullback, but with the strong buy volume coming in, as well as this candle closing that week, the previous week off pretty strong for the bulls. It didn't unfortunately close green. That would have been very strong, but overall, I do think that we could still hit the 96 before potentially coming back and hitting the key level of resistance right here, and then bouncing. So this is what I mean. So it could bounce up to here, and then we'd be looking for a potential pullback to around 77, 78, maybe even to 81. Because this is a zone of confluence for the demand zone. There's a lot of buyers potentially lining up around this area. So I think we could hit a key level of resistance. And from my view, it looks like it would be around 96. And then we'd come back and retest the previously broken zone, as well as the same level of support that we've been holding back all the way in from 2011. And also the horizontal zone that we've been able to hold, and we can just see how well respected both as a resistance and a support in the previous price action right here. So overall, that's a look of the bigger term time frame, and then we'll discuss what the consolidation has looked like, and then also discuss the potential push that we could see to hit the final zone of around $9,600. So let's jump into now the daily, and this is the CME futures. This is the futures exchange that the institutional investors and traders use in order to play with the volatility of BTC and try to make profits off it. So it's really good to understand what the institutions are actually doing, and looking at the volume, you can see there's a lot of RVol right now, relative volume. So looking at basically middle or a little bit later of 2019 all the way until 2020, we don't see that much volume. And then recently, basically from 2020 onwards, we're seeing a lot more volume. It is good to see for traders because we get to understand that there is a lot more eyeballs looking at the chart. There's a lot more people creating transactions with higher volume, indicating that we could have some pretty strong pushes, both to the upside and downside. It's just there's increase in volatility when there's higher RVol because there's more individuals buying and selling within this market. So overall, that is a good sign for us traders. So looking at the daily here, let's just get our snip and then discuss a little bit of the flow. So this is that descending trend line we talked about on the weekly, and this is that major rejection that we saw back when this was a 40% pump from here to here, and then we saw a very, very strong rejection that pushed the price all the way back down. If you notice right here, we actually closed above this zone, back all the way here. We didn't actually close above it. We did get wicks protruding above the zone like so, but we didn't actually close above it, and this time we closed above it. So that was a first indication that we were going to actually get a trend reversal, and then we tested the previous resistance as a new level of support, also in confluence with their horizontal zone, which is this guy right here, and this created a level for buyers to have confidence in. And then this is where that initial bullish candle came in, this guy, and then we got a little bit of consolidation and then blasted off to make new highs. So overall, that initial breakout still looks very solid, and this chart still looks like it's in a bullish momentum. We see that this is a low, this is a high, this is a higher high right here, this is a higher low, this is a higher high, and this could be a higher low. So overall, the momentum and the market structure still looks bullish. We could just be creating a bit of a higher low here because we have a low, we have a higher low, we have a higher low, and then this could just be another higher low to form a potential new higher high hitting around that zone there. So overall, it still looks pretty good on the market structure on the daily chart, and we are holding this very, very well respected previous level of resistance, which is going to be our new level of support, and that's what we've seen so far around the $8,200 area. So that's a very key level that we've been eyeing up. We did short a little bit here, and then we were just holding on to see if it would break this zone, and then we inevitably took the trade at a break even. Didn't really make anything, but we had a good hedge while the price was coming down. We did not know that we were going to hold this zone, so that's why we put on a hedge. And then because we did hold that zone, we definitely took the hedge off before we made, before the price made a move back to the upside. So overall, still looks pretty good. We'll get into the smaller time frames and discuss what we're able to find on different exchanges. Not a whole lot of a change on the Gemini exchange. We do see this very level be used as a resistance right here, and then now a current support, which is good to see. We did break above the $8,600 mid-range zone within the consolidation, which is good for the bulls. We have not closed on the daily chart yet, but on the 4-hour, we've definitely closed above, showing signs that there is increased bullish pressure. Looking at the volume, there's not a whole lot of buy volume on the push up, which isn't ideal to see. But we did break this key level horizontally, and if the daily candle is able to hold above it, that would look pretty good for the bulls overall. Zooming out a little bit, we can see that this level on the 91 to 95, we talked about on the weekly as well as the daily on the CME Futures Exchange. we do have this key level here that we have to make sure. So a higher high could theoretically just be a little bit higher, so it's touching the $9,500 zone. And then we might get a bit of a pullback because we've had 3 very solid impulse pushes, and then that would finish the Elliott wave theory. I'm not a diehard fan of Elliott wave, but I do understand the market structure that the Elliott wave follows in terms of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves. So I'm just keeping a close eye on that because BTC has proven to have those types of waves before. And just to prove to you that it happens, this is a very, very simple Elliott wave that we have right here. The first wave, and the second wave, and the third wave, and the fourth wave, and the fifth wave. And then you have your A, B, C pattern. So you have 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5 right there. So you have your first wave, third wave, fifth wave, and then you have your pullbacks, which is the second wave and fourth wave, and then you have your A, B, C pattern right there. So it does occur, and I don't want to take some profits off too early, and I don't want to change my bias at this point in time. I still do think because this break was such a significant zone, I want to ensure that we are capturing as most of the profits that we possibly can. So this key descending trend line, it's a very similar pattern. So if you look at the breakout that we had basically at the start of 2019 or midway at the end of Q1 in 2019, we saw that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pattern. And then if we look here at the weekly, we can see that the breakout for descending trend lines are very similar in both circumstances. We can see that this zone right here was a very similar situation where we have a key level of a descending trend line get broken, and then we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Elliott waves. So then let's just take a picture of here again. So very similar situation. We have a key level of descending trend line all along here, and then same thing, we have a key level of resistance all along here. Once we broke, we got a little bit of a consolidation. Same in here, we broke a little bit of a consolidation, and then we get our second wave because this is the first wave right here, and then we get our second wave after the consolidation. So we have the 1, 2, 3, and we're currently at the 1, 2. So I think we will get a solid push here to continue the next wave. And then within this little range here, we do have a little pullback. So it does depend on which time frame you are looking at it. But in terms of the weekly, we can very, very easily see the 5 waves within the breakout of ending Q1 of 2019. We see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we consolidate right here. And then overall, I think we could be seeing something similar on the 4-hour time frames here, or at least on the daily on the smaller time frames within the recent price action, where we see the initial push up, which is 1, and then we see a pullback, and then we see the second push, and then we see a pullback, and then I think we could see that last leg come through, and I think that's what I'm looking at in terms of the price action. And then if we are able to hold above the $9,200 area, that would be ideal, because then we could have a continuation of the trend. But overall, that's what I'm seeing for the price of BTC, and I want to capture that last leg to the upside in order to look at different alts, look at BTC, look at something that will potentially give us a sympathy play, or look at the asset itself, BTC. But for now, we're just trading the alts right now. So now let's jump into the 4-hour and then discuss the more granular details of the actual pullback that we've seen. So let's get our snippet again and then discuss what we're able to find. So we've been seeing, just give me one moment here. All right, so we've been seeing initially a push to the upside, making higher highs and higher lows. Very easy to identify. This is a low, this is a high, this is a higher low, this is a higher high, this is a higher low, this is a higher high, this is a higher low, and this is a higher high. So overall, we've been seeing very, very clear signs of a bullish momentum. We did, in fact, get rejected very hard off the $9,100 range, and then since then, we've made a low, we've made a lower high, and then we made a lower low, but we were short right here, and then our stop loss was above this zone. And then we were looking to see if the price would make a lower low. If the price did make a lower low, we definitely would have held on to our shorts. And then I think the price, what would have happened is it would have made a lower low, and then because this area has been a resistance in the past, we would have came back up, retested this area of previous support, new resistance, and then we would have looked to potentially come back and have some of our take profits hit horizontally right around here. So that was the plan initially for the short, but because the price did manage to hold this level of support, we can safely assume that we could potentially look for longs, because there was a low, there was a high, there was a lower high, there was a lower high, and that created our descending trend line. And once it broke above, that's where we started to take some hedges against our initial trade of BTC, and then that turned out pretty well. We had XRP hit all take profits, and then TRX is looking pretty good now. So overall, the price is starting to come back up, making new highs. So this was the high. We needed to make a higher high, and this was that higher high that it made. So now we are back in a bullish momentum where we have a low, and then we have a high, and then this is a higher high, and this is a higher low. And then we're seeing that next higher high come in, and then we could see a higher low with a bounce at around the $8,800 zone, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So overall, the market has shifted from a bearish downward move to now a bullish upward move, and it's just a matter of if we are able to pass this level of supply right here, because if we are not, and then if we do get rejected pretty hard here, then we'd just be in a consolidation like so, just going sideways. And then what we could do is start to look to short off resistances. So we'd be shorting somewhere around here, and then what we do is long off supports, and then see until the price either breaks the resistance or the support within the consolidation, and then we just trade in that direction. But overall, we are long because we were looking at longing on alts within this zone right here, and then we've been just holding while the price has been moving up, which has proven to be a successful trade. And then now we're just seeing how it reacts to this key zone right now, where we've seen it used as a previous resistance and support and resistance. So we can safely assume that there's going to be some level of sensitivity and some level of a reaction around the $8,800 zone, and we're just going to see how it reacts right now. So overall, we're just sitting on our hands, not doing a whole lot. We are looking at long opportunities within the alt market, but for now, let's just talk about BTC. So that's the overall look that I'm able to understand for the 4-hour chart. On the 4-hour, we can just discuss the volume as well. We do see a lot more buy volume on the way up. We do see that initial rejection with sell volume very, very significant. We do see that it's higher than the previous two pushes of the impulse from the bulls. We see that initial push, and then we saw the push off that descending trend line, both of which were not as big as the amount of sell volume that came in. But overall, we are gaining traction again with more buy volume coming into the market. Within the consolidation to the downside, we do see that there is more sell volume, which makes sense. But overall, looking at both the push and the correction, we see that the push has more buy volume than the correction has sell volume. So overall, I do think that the volume is still in accumulation phase, which is good for us in terms of looking at the bullish bias. So overall, I still think that we could have another little push here above the zone, at least touching the $9K, $9,100 area, which would then give us some opportunities with the alts, because that is not a small move. Just looking at BTC from where it is now, it would still be around a 3-4% move, and then alts definitely move a lot faster and a lot more aggressively than BTC for the most case. So overall, I do think that we could have that last little leg up. Looking at the 1-hour chart, let's discuss the flow again, get our nice little picture here, and discuss what happened. Let me just grab a little drink of coffee before. All right, so initially, we were thinking bearish. Let's discuss our initial trade, which was right here. But first, let's just go over the market structure. Actually, even before it happened, because then we can understand why I looked to enter short here. So I did understand that there was a level of supply not too far away from me, but it was a really good entry, and I knew I would have been able to cut my losses and basically have a risk-free trade if I put my stop loss near my entry, because I knew that there was a key level of support here. We can see all along here. It was a pretty big zone. Like, I did capture from here all the way to here, so it was a pretty big zone. but it was a support that if we did pass, we would have a pretty far fall to at least this zone here, just above the 8K or even down to the $7,800 area. So if we did break that support, that would have been a pretty fantastic trade for our short, but we did not manage to actually break it. And then quickly, let's just talk about the exact entry for this short that we actually took. And then we do see that it was a triple top here on the 1 hour. I do believe it was just a double top at this zone. Yep, we can see that right here. Let's just take a picture and talk about it a little bit more. So this is where we entered right here. And then we do see that this key level of descending resistance was well respected throughout basically the 22nd and 23rd of January. And then once the price came around this zone, we were looking to short and then potentially break below this zone, but that was the zone that we were looking at because we knew beforehand that there would be potential buy pressure at this area. So overall, we saw the first initial rejection and the bearish candle there, and then we thought, all right, this looks pretty good for a potential short. What do we want to do? Well, we want to initially wait until we have double confirmation, and this was that second confirmation that the bears were present. We saw the bullish pressure get denied, and then the bears took control and pushed the price right back down towards the minor level of support. And then we dropped down to the 15-minute chart and really took a clear view of where we wanted to enter. And where we entered was right at the completion of the push below the zone, and then we got a little bit of a retest. I entered at that doji there, the red doji, and then we got a little bit of a pullback. My risk was set above this zone, or I think it was actually at the top here because we could have had a little candle push up the wick mid-range here. So I did have a stop loss just above this zone. And then looking back, theoretically, I could have taken some profits here, but I don't like to take profits unless I have a risk reward at a minimum of 2. So there was my entry right here. And then I took the price all the way down here, did not take any profits, and then this was basically my hedge until the price came all the way up and hit my break-even point, which was this candle right here. Now I set my break-even point just a little bit below because then I'm covering cost of commission and all that stuff, but that was the initial trade. And then obviously as time went on, we did not see that second crack of the support, so we held many times over, and then soon after we got this candle, I would definitely put on a hedge somewhere around here on the alt, and then this is where we got stopped out at this point here. So overall, I'm very happy with that trade, even though we didn't actually take any profit. It was a well-managed trade, it was a well-put-on trade, it was a good entry in my view, and overall I was happy with that situation. And then we held this multiple times, and then once we broke this descending trend line, that was a well-respected resistance all along here. And then once we broke it, we retested, and then we made our impulse move. We retested a key level of support. We can identify like so. That same resistance, which is a new support that I used in order to have my entry, we also used in the recent price action to bounce off of for a new level of support right here. So this is that key zone where we pushed, had a correction, and then made an impulse move, and that's where I initially took the entry. And same thing in that same zone, we had a push and then a pullback, retesting that zone as a support. I did the opposite where I retested it as a resistance, and then we made our impulse move to the upside. So overall, after that impulse move, we are looking like we are gaining a lot of traction for the bulls. We see that there is a lot of buy volume compared to the sell volume. And we do have higher R vol within this range here, but overall we see a lot more buy volume than sell volume within the volume area. And then we are breaking resistances, like this is a key level of resistance all along here. We see it initially used as a support all along this zone here. All along it was a support, and then we used it as a resistance right here for the double top. And then now that we've broken the zone, previous resistance, new support with a very long wick. We can see that right here, very long wick, indicating that there is buyers in the area buying up the coin. And then soon after that close, we saw another bullish push up to our key level of resistance. We can see that right here, support, support, resistance, 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 resistance. So all along here, resistance, support, resistance, and now it's going to be our new level of resistance. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to pass it like anything. We just got to wait and see and speculate that the trend, it will either continue or it will fail. So for us, we are speculating that the trend will continue, and we're going to at least break this zone, retest it, and push it back up, kind of like we saw something similar in this situation here. So overall, on the 1 hour, that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I'm expecting on the smaller term time frames. So I don't like to look too far in. I like to kind of look at the 4 hour more or less, and then really decide which way the price could go using the 4 hour and daily chart. I think the 1 hour is a little bit too noisy, and then it's a lot easier to understand the price action when you're looking at the 4 hour and daily chart. So overall, that's my view of BTC, and we'll go over the alt charts within the crypto market discussion. But for the publics, I just wanted to give you guys a good breakdown of what we're able to see within the price action. And then now we're going to go over and look at some of the tools that we're able to use to understand the overall outlook of BTC. First, we're just going to talk about the gap, and then we're going to talk about BTC longs, and then we're going to talk about our coin farm, looking at the percentage of people that are longing and shorting, and then that will finish off the video. So first, let's just go over the little gap here. There is really not much gap, but there's a tiny gap within the market, which would indicate that the momentum is to the upside because we gapped up. But we do need to fill the gap in order to complete the gap fill pattern, which would then have the price pull back a little bit, filling this very, very minor gap, and then we would continue on to our bullish momentum, which would be to the upside. So there's really, really not much of a gap. So if we're just drawing the gap right here, that would be the start, and then this would be the end. So overall, there is a very, very minor gap. I don't really think that it would matter too much, because if it was a significant gap, that would make me want to potentially see if the gap would be able to close. But for now, I do think that we could see a little bit of a pullback, maybe to around the $8,500 zone. But overall, I do think that the momentum is still to the upside. Now, if we don't close that gap, it's not the end of the world. But looking at the previous price action, we can see that gaps usually have filled in the past. Doesn't mean that we'll fill instantly. There's been times where a gap hasn't filled for many months. Looking just at this gap right here, this gap did not fill from June all the way until September. So that's just showing you that gaps don't necessarily have to fill right away, but over time we are expecting them to fill sooner or later. So that's the overall gap for BTC. We could just hit the $9,600 zone and then come back to fill that gap. I don't exactly know, but that's just indicating that the momentum is still in a bullish fashion, in a bullish direction, because the gap was to the upside. Now talking about the BTC longs, this is just on BitMEX, and it's nice to have his chart instead of just having it on a screen, looking at the number itself. So overall, looking at the daily of the BTC longs on Bitfinex, we see that a previous level of resistance where the buyers couldn't really get the price above after we had a massive explosion in the longs within the market. We got a pullback, and now it looks like we are holding the previous resistance as a new level of support. This is very psychological, because this isn't really this is not really the price of any asset. It is basically the psychology of the individuals using Bitfinex, where this is the ratio of the longs versus shorts, or the buyers or sellers. And now the psychological zone where buyers could not get the price above, and the psychological zone where sellers were taking control and having confidence in the price, is now shifted, where the previous resistance is now the new level of support. So overall, that does look good if the price is able to hold above that zone, because now we have a higher level in which the buyers are not going to let the price go below, or it's a level in where the longs or the buyers are saying that this is a good price to enter, and we are at a new point of equilibrium. Like with this, in this area, we have found a pretty good area where buyers and sellers are meeting in the middle, because it's just bouncing from resistance to support. And once we broke it, there was a key major shift in the balance, so then it was not equal, and then we got a massive pullback after a lot of people, I'm sure, took profits, and then now we are just holding above the previous resistance, the previous highs of the equilibrium, and now it could be the lows of the new area, which could be kind of maybe around the red zone, and then our key mid-range zone right here. So overall, it does look pretty good for the longs if we are able to hold above this zone. So overall, looks pretty good. And then let's now talk about the coin farm and discuss the percentages that we're able to see for both the 24-hour period and for the hour period. So this initially is the 24-hour period. So let's just look at the percentages here. So this is the 24 hours. So we can see that this side is for the shorts. So this side right here is for the shorts, and then this side is for the long. So we can see on all exchanges, there are more people longing than people shorting within the 24 hours from today. Let's just exit that page. Kind of this is all we need. So we can see that there's 56% on BitMEX. Let's just re-upload that page. So we have 56% on BitMEX, and we have 43.99, basically 44% of people that are shorting on BitMEX. And then on I believe the next one is Binance. Yep. So on Binance, there's 52.5% of people that are longing, and then there is 47.5% of people that are shorting. And then on Bybit, 51.65 longing, 48.35% shorting. So overall, there's a higher amount of people longing. There's more buyers within the market within the 24-hour span than people shorting in the market, expecting the price to go down on the 24-hour time frame on all three exchanges that we're really looking at. So we're really mainly looking at BitMEX, Binance, and Bybit because it has by far the most amount of volume within our list. And then looking at the 1 hour, we don't love to look at the 1 hour because the 24-hour gives a better snapshot of the overall macro picture of the price action. But just looking at the 1 hour chart, we do see that there are more longs on BitMEX and on Binance. On Bybit, there is 51.37% of people that are shorting. So on Bitfinex and Bybit, there are more shorts compared to longs. But on Binance and BitMEX, which have more volume, there is more buyers than sellers. So overall, it does look more leaning towards the bullish side, especially looking at the longs on the Bitfinex chart as well. Overall, it does look pretty good for the bulls. And with all that analysis done and complete, I have now provided a decent amount of information as to why I think that we could still see some upside potential, potentially even making a new high or at least retesting the high that we currently had. So overall, that's my outlook for BTC. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you gathered some new information or at least had an alternate view of how to look at the price action or how to look at the potential price of BTC in the future. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave a comment within either our YouTube channel or our Discord, and we'll be happy to answer them as they come in. So until next time, I hope you guys have a fantastic week ahead. I hope you guys had a good weekend and it was a relaxing one, and then we get to jump back in and really look at the charts, look at the flow of things, and try to capture some profits for this upcoming week. So until next time, happy trading and have a good one.